All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the third episode of the Stick to Ole Miss podcast show. I'm going to go ahead and apologize. I'm staying in a hotel currently out of town, so not my usual backdrop, so kind of had to adjust some things to get where we are. As always, I'm TJ Oxley, joined by my good pal, Caleb Salers.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, I'm here live in the Super Talk.
He's live in the Super Talk. I'm over here saying a Lakita Inn or so. I can't probably Lagrunta something, some sort of knockoff hotel. Oh man! All right, let's serious up. Big episode today. Big episode. The podcast that started to kind of cover this Ole Miss coaching search. Now on episode number 3, and we're there. We did it. We got to where we needed to be. Ole Miss has announced that Chris Beard is now the next man in charge, the 23rd leader of the program. The press conference is coming tomorrow, I believe. Yes. And it's a fun time to be an Ole Miss fan. You're kind of seeing a little bit of excitement again.
Insert the Lane Kiffin, what an exciting time, GIF.
Exactly. No, it's so crazy though, seeing everybody's response to how it's all happened, and it seems like something that fans wanted immediately, and then it was possibility.
Is it gonna happen?
And then it just went away, and then it was oh, well, this isn't happening, and then all of a sudden, little sprinkle out there, things heated up again, and then it just fuel to the fire, and it just caught on, and here we are.
Absolutely.
Our last episode, we went through my entire hot board, and cheers to us for getting plenty of content out to you all. But now you're
names. At least you guys heard names that you likely wouldn't have considered for the Ole Miss basketball job. We did you a favor. You're welcome.
Listen, we just wanted to make it fun for you. Just opened up the realm of possibilities out there. But now you're starting to see some of those guys kind of be linked to some other jobs. Just saying.
Yep.
Just saying. It's
It
wasn't for nothing.
Not for naught.
Yeah, but Keith Carter, the Ole Miss Athletic Administration, the Chancellor, they got their guy.
They did.
And that man's Chris Beard. And if you're a basketball fan, it's a pretty daggone good one to get.
I mean, if you think of the guys now that lead Ole Miss's top 3 programs, I mean, you've got Lane Kiffin in football, Mike Bianco in baseball, just won a national championship for those who've been really buried underneath the rock. And now Chris Beard in basketball. I mean, can you name a coaching tandem that talented, from top to bottom, anywhere in the nation? I mean, can you? Seriously.
You put me on the spot. I
mean, what spot is there to be on? I mean, from top to bottom, in terms of success and in terms of what they bring to the table, I don't think, and that's not me being biased, I don't think you can. I mean, maybe
Southern Cal have a good baseball team?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
No.
Wow.
I mean, and the closest one to me, just all 3 being good, Arkansas maybe, with Pittman, who's been good. I mean, he's not been exceptional, but he's been good. Yeah. Musselman's great, and then Van Horn's awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's a good one. That's a really good one. But no, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there, buddy. I mean, it's going to be a fun time. I mean, I think for a while there, it was kind of always football season, and then a little bit of basketball in the beginning, and then quickly, as soon as baseball comes into the picture, not even in the just a couple scrimmages or something like that, people get excited about it, and then basketball is over with. I don't think this is the case anymore. I think we're going to get finally a really good blend where from, late August to, May, your Ole Miss is going to be fun to watch at any point in any sport. And that's something that's just super, super exciting.
And you're going to have that one crossover day where people leave the baseball game early on Saturday to go pack up the pavilion. One, because it is too cold for baseball, and they start early, and it's too cold. So being in the pavilion's nice. It's climate controlled, and you're inside. But people are going to be excited for the product on the court, and that's not us, putting on our fan or red and blue goggles. You just know I'm not trying to get ahead of anything, but with Chris Beard, the product on the court will be fun, and it will be very watchable, to say the least.
It's crazy because we talk about maybe football basketball duos or football baseball duos, and for Ole Miss in itself, you have a basketball duo that's kind of on hopefully what's going to be the same trajectory or the same ascension path. I mean, I think that the women's team is just so close to taking that next step as a program overall. And I think when you hire someone like Chris Beard, A, like the way people talk about your program changes, and B, the actual potential for someone like Chris Beard who comes in and knows how to utilize the portal and knows how to turn a roster really quickly. It's the same thing. You're going to see like the same level of ascent, and hopefully going to see the same level of ascent. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to be a lot of content to cover here in the next, couple of months.
You don't expect to see Ole Miss with a losing record overall and in conference play and just looking dead at the end of the season. That's not going to be the case with Chris Beard. I mean, barring like every player on the team having some sort of rare injury, that's just not going to be the case.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's a few people out there who, maybe have just kind of not worried about basketball, or really, maybe just because we'll say the lack of success that Ole Miss has had in recent memories. Maybe they just kind of tuned basketball out. So for those of you that don't know, Caleb, who is Chris Beard?
Some guy off the street that Keith Carter thought knew a thing or two. No, I mean, dude, Keith Carter. Chris Beard was at Little Rock, took them to the tournament, won with them in the tournament. And, I mean, he's coached.
1 year. 30-5 in 1 year.
Yep.
And that wasn't the team that won 20-something games the year before.
No.
That was a turnaround job.
Yes, absolutely. And then at Texas Tech, I mean, he inherited a program that was not necessarily in just complete shambles, but wasn't a great program. He had to rebuild them, took them to the national championship. I mean, and then knocked off some juggernauts, knocked off Gonzaga in the tournament to get to the championship game, and fell to a really tough Virginia team under Tony Bennett, who's one of the more grittier coaches there is. Runs a very defensive-minded, slow-paced basketball, kind of death by paper cut kind of system. I'm not talking about Tony Bennett. I'm talking about Chris Beard. But just to take them there and then to elevate to coach at, the place that has the biggest athletic budget in all of college sports at Texas. Obviously, they thought highly of him to get rid of Shaka Smart to go get him. And he had Texas, I mean, really on a trajectory. I mean, look where Texas is now. They're a 2-seed, I believe, aren't they?
Yeah. And I believe they were like very close, if not top 5, kind of when Texas decided to make that move. So, no, you hit it right. You did leave out maybe just a couple weeks over there in Las Vegas, but we'll not worry about that for now.
Not worried about that right now. Not right this second.
We don't need to worry about him being in Las Vegas because he's in Oxford, and that's exactly where he needs to be.
I'm not worried about Las Vegas, man.
No.
But the guy's been a 4-time conference coach of the year, and 2019 was national coach of the year. So, I mean, impressive pedigree. He's won over 70% of the games he's been a head coach of. Dude just wins. He wins. Fun style of basketball. His team score a lot of points. Some Ole Miss fans want to score more points, want the product to be fun, and want to win. The guy does it all.
Yeah, this is, I think I spent some time today kind of looking a little bit more into Chris Beard, kind of like, what he brings to the table as a coach, because it's not all just like, I mean, wins and losses are a huge part of it, but, part of it is the leadership aspect. Part of it is the strategy that comes along with it. And, simply put, Ole Miss isn't a school that gets Chris Beard under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that, doesn't know at this point, Chris Beard was let go from Texas earlier on this year. I think January 5th. Okay. So under an arrest that happened for domestic violence, the charges were later dropped. Same thing I said kind of in the Hot Board episode, look into yourself, look into how you want to believe it. Ole Miss did its extensive vetting process. They brought him in. They went to go talk to him. They got to know Chris Beard, the person, and they made that decision. And that's who we're going to roll with. I mean.
Well, and he's already rolling with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
We'll talk about transfers and everything at another point. But
talking about transfer segues, man, that was perfect.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying Chris Beard has already brought in 2 guys that were committed to the program that were looking at other options and brought them back in. I mean, he's already sold, and he's going to be announced tomorrow. But today, I mean, literally the announcement had just been made. He's already out on the road recruiting, out on the road trying to build his program, build his team. So, whether you like Chris Beard, the person, or not, you got a dude that's dedicated to your program right now and dedicated to building it up very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think actually the professionalism he came in with and the ability to get on. I mean, today, honestly,
yeah.
day one, A+.
Yeah, Rashad Marshall. Are you kidding me?
Let's go back a little bit and just kind of talk about the situation. Ole Miss lets go of Kermit Davis.
Mm-hmm.
In today's college landscape, it doesn't matter who you let go of as a coach. Anytime you're going to see turnover on your coaching staff, you're going to see turnover on your roster. That's just the way it is. Relationships, it's the name of the game. It's what brings players in. The dudes that were on the roster for Ole Miss, the commits, the signees, those dudes were connected to Kermit Davis and that coaching staff. Ole Miss pivots. They want to change directions. They bring in Chris Beard. And I don't know who's going to be on Chris Beard's staff yet. That could be a fun thing for us to discuss at a later time. But those dudes aren't connected to him anymore. Now, maybe a couple of them might have been recruited to him when he was at Texas Tech or at Texas.
Maybe.
Whenever they started that process of getting to know some of these players. But what he did today is he went out and he landed in Oxford and he took that picture with Keith Carter. He had the family there. And then all of a sudden, he immediately gets back on that plane and he goes and visits Rashad Marshall in Arkansas.
He said, all right, kids, y'all go get settled in the new home. Have fun. I'm out. I'll see y'all later.
And not only did he just go make the visit, he sold Rashad, who had previously asked to be released from his NLI. Yep. He sold him on Ole Miss again, on his vision, on his plans for him as a player, and got him all within day one.
On the spot.
And then it wasn't just Rashad Marshall. No. That alone would have got you up to an A.
Yeah.
He doubles down. He goes out and he talks to Jordan Burks.
Yep.
And Jordan Burks never decommitted, as far as I know. Never asked for a release or anything like that. But he got him to double down. He got him to recommit. And now you're looking at a team that kind of was struggling to see what its future was going to be like, what the foundation or the cornerstones were going to be. And now you have two potential ones coming in.
And now I'm eager to see what he does with some of the guys on the existing roster that have announced their plans to enter the transfer portal or have entered the transfer portal. I'm eager to see if he can pull some of those guys back in or if he doesn't really try to pull some of those guys back in. I'm eager to see how he approaches that situation too. But I know most of the guys that have already, announced their plans to transfer still have an open mind, or they say this. I don't know. It could all be just lip speak. But they say they have an open mind to Ole Miss and are not just out on Ole Miss, just exploring all options. First of all, you can't blame the kid when the kid does that. I mean, you literally created uncertainty in the kid's life because his coach, who he signed to play for, is no longer there anymore. So, of course, he's going to look for a better situation in the here and now. But, now Beard has a golden opportunity to say, hey, look, I understand your coach was let go. I understand this. I've watched plenty of film. I know who you are. Here's where you could play an integral role on my team. Or, yeah, it may be better for you to find another landing spot. Not that Beard would be wrong in doing that. It's just he's going to run the program the way he runs a basketball program. And so he's going to need guys that fit that kind of program. And it was cool to see, though, that he did think Rashad Marshall and Jordan Burks were kind of guys that could play an integral role on a Chris Beard basketball team. So it kind of validates a little bit of what we talked about with Kermit Davis, that great, good recruiter, one of the best recruiters Ole Miss has ever had. He was able to get the talent. So now it's up to Beard to be able to put that product on the floor that gets you that next step that wins those games.
Yeah, and it's I think we just kind of have to, just take a quick little step back because this stuff happens super fast.
Yeah.
I mean, today has happened super fast, but let's just talk about in general. When you look at the steps for a coach being hired, and this isn't necessarily followed in this direct order, but this is kind of like the process of how it goes. You get the offer, or at least tentatively talk about the job with the athletic director. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out who can you bring on staff, who are you going to have with you. And then you got to, which is, I always think is kind of funny. You got to re-recruit before you recruit. And what I mean by that is you kind of have to go through I don't know this for a fact, but based off what I've heard off coaching searches before, when Chris Beard met with Keith Carter, you can't tell me that they didn't walk into a room, throw on some tape, and talk about each and every single one of the players that there. Keith Carter being the basketball mind that he is, Chris Beard being the basketball mind that he is. They went through each and every single one of those players, showed some film on them. What can they do? What can't they do? and then Chris Beard can make his assumptions on them from there.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the players on the Ole Miss roster who have entered the transfer portal, again, Chris Beard is going to have a conversation, if he hasn't already, with each of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of these guys entered before this announcement was made.
Yes.
So it's still, and I think a couple of them did leave the door open to potentially come back. They're going to have those conversations, but they're also just feeling out what options are out there, and I think they have the right to do so.
100% they have the right to do so. I mean, again, the guy they signed to play with is no longer there. They're not obligated to play for this new guy. And if they find a greener pasture elsewhere, more power to them. Jarkel Joyner's in the NCAA tournament this year, and I could not be happier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then your boy Austin Crowley down there at Southern Miss.
And the NIT, baby. Thanks for rubbing it in.
Huh? Yeah, you got the NIT, man.
Huh?
You got the NIT.
True.
What did Marshall get?
Nothing.
A quarterfinals loss. Nothing.
Yeah, Austin Crowley, though, he went to Southern Miss, found a role, and he was Sun Belt Newcomer of the Year and had a heck of a season in Jay Ladner's defense. I mean, Jay Ladner's program. And, yeah, he'll be competing in the NIT, playing against Andy Kennedy tomorrow night, ironically.
God, you're humble bragging on the NIT. You're humble bragging on the NIT.
NIT has gotten a lot tougher.
This is a bit, listen, and this is an Ole Miss show where we're going to stick to Ole Miss, except for this second.
Well,
on the mid-major route, I'm a Marshall fan. Caleb's a Southern Miss fan. In the Sun Belt quarterfinals, Southern Miss played early in the morning. I text Caleb after the game. I was making fun of them. They lost. And then Karma hit me like a truck, like a Mack truck going 60. And Marshall lost their quarterfinal game. Anyways, stick to Ole Miss. Chris.
I didn't say a word to you about it, too. I was nice. That was my mistake.
Oh, I brought it up. Anyways, getting back to this, it's an exciting time because I think, we're going to see this kind of staff come together really quick. And we kind of have a hint that maybe it's already there. Maybe it's not. BJ Mack, the transfer out of Wofford, is kind of reporting that he's heard from Ole Miss. And then it later came out that it wasn't necessarily Chris Beard who reached out to him. It was an assistant coach. I don't know whether that's an assistant on the press regime, kind of just reaching out, continuing to do the job until the announcement is made, until his fate's decided, or whether that was someone that maybe Chris Beard has kind of talked to on the backstream, kind of being like, hey, I want you to kind of come with me. Let's start recruiting players to Ole Miss. But it's something to keep an eye on.
If you put the 2 and 2 together, I'm not going to say anything out loud, but just logically deducing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's get into a little bit about maybe the more advanced style of the Chris Beard scheme, the strategy. For those of you that don't know, Chris Beard was the look you just gave me, man. Chris Beard uses a very fun defense. It is the no middle defense, and as one might guess, the focus is to keep the ball out of the middle.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They're going to send a lot of help side defense into that middle area. They don't want to in there. And what they're going to try to do, and this is something that I really love in the college game today, is they're going to try to ice anything out on the perimeter. So what they're going to do is defenders are going to use the sidelines as an extra defender. So if a ball screen comes, and let's say they're on the wing, the on-ball defender is actually going to jump up until into the middle of the defense or the middle of the court.
Yeah.
And then the help defender is actually probably going to stay in just like a little short drop situation, almost creating pressure for that guy to go towards the sideline or go down towards the corner where they have more help from the sideline as that extra defender. And it's going to be really fun to see because their defenses have been really good. Earlier, Caleb, you talked about that game against Gonzaga when they were playing what was it? The Elite 8, Sweet 16 of that national title run at Texas Tech. Yeah, that Gonzaga team was very, very good.
Yes.
And in fact, only 2 games in that entire year where they held to under 1 points per possession. And that's pretty daggone good. A 1.00 is a very good points per possession.
Yes.
Texas Tech was one of those 2 games. And that was in the Elite 8, one of the biggest games of the year.
And if you fast forward a season, not to veer away from the conversation, but look who ran the no middle defense against Gonzaga in the championship game and just bludgeoned them. It was Baylor. And Scott Drew took a play from Chris Beard's playbook to win his team a national championship. these coaches watch each other and notice things. He noticed that was one thing that Mark Few's team really struggled with, and he implemented it. And Baylor won a national championship in a landslide because of it. But yes, back to what you
Well, everybody learns from somebody.
Yeah.
And Chris Beard learned from Mark Adams.
Yep.
Mark Adams was sort of his defensive guru. Mark Adams, former coach at Texas Tech. Once Chris Beard left, he kind of stepped up into that role, no longer with Texas Tech. But you don't think that, he didn't take that with him to Texas, because guess what? He did. It was still there. They still ran the no middle.
He's going to take it to Ole Miss.
And guess what? When he comes to Ole Miss, next season, be ready to see the no middle, because it's going to be there.
Alert.
Yeah. Offensively on the side of things, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different style offense. I think you're going to see a lot more off-ball action than what we saw kind of under the Kermit Davis era. But there is going to be a lot of screens off ball, but there also is going to be isolation opportunities, which is something that I think is going to be really interesting to see. You look at some of the players that, have kind of flourished under Chris Beard of late. I'm thinking of really the two guards, Texas, that come to mind, Marcus Carr, Tyrese Hunter, is their ability to kind of go and create shots in isolation. Especially, looking, and then they'll also, thinking about entering the kind of some more post play, kind of giving space out there to make something happen. They did a lot of that with Timmy Allen this year. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. You're going to see some guys who are kind of like more specialists on finding their own shot and getting to the spots.
No, but as I said earlier in the show, I am eager to see who Beard does recruit back to the roster. He's going to talk to every player in the portal on the Ole Miss basketball team. I'm excited to see who enters the transfer portal, who he goes after, who Ole Miss is in on, and guys that are instantly interested in Ole Miss. You see in football with Lane Kiffin, every guy that enters the transfer portal, whether they're actually interested in Ole Miss or not, their name is attached to Ole Miss. Bo Nix comes to mind. He was never coming to Ole Miss, but his name was immediately attached to the Ole Miss job as soon as he entered the portal. Why? Because of who Kiffin is. Now with Beard, you're going to see that.
Yeah, and it was funny you brought up the Kiffin thing, because I remember specifically, I don't remember the recruit that, or the player that did, but it was as soon as the player entered the transfer portal, I just, maybe I just put the eyes or something like that, just like a little and when I do that, it's not necessarily that Ole Miss has a keen eye on somebody, or they're going to go out and try to pursue them. I just do it because I'm oh, take a look at this guy, entering the portal. That's a pretty big name.
Yep.
But I remember I did that for one, and someone responded to me, and they were like, you seriously need to stop thinking that everybody who enters the portal is going to be interested in Ole Miss. And I was like,
why?
One, I'm not. Two, why'd you call me out like that? Because I wasn't. Three, it might. It's possible. That's kind of how the portal works, is you enter your name in and then somebody sees it and they kind of start contacting you. And I think you're right. With Chris Beard coming in here, the name, the attraction, the top tier coach who's been there, been to the national title game, has gotten players to the NBA, has really, is a very good X's and O coach, but also knows how to develop really well. That players who are going in there looking for that second chance are going to do it. Just look at the rosters that he's had.
Yeah.
Everywhere he's been, whether it's Texas Tech, there have been players that have kind of churned through that roster. You look at that Texas Tech team, you got Matt Mooney, you got Tariq Owens, those two dudes transferred in. One from St. John's, one from Air Force. You look at, Texas, you got Tyrese Hunter, Marcus Carr. They're two stars in the backcourt.
Yep.
Both transferred in. Dylan Dessou at Vanderbilt. We know him well. You look at Christian Bishop coming from Creighton. Timmy Allen out of Utah. Those are all guys who came to Texas for a second chance, for a different look, a different opportunity, a place that they can go and really showcase their skills while also competing at the highest level. It's going to be a job where, Chris Beard's going to have to come in. He's already done a pretty good job of dealing with Marshall, Burks, and a couple others. And, there are some other players for Ole Miss who have already started to transfer out. We might see more. I would probably go ahead and bet on saying that you're going to see a couple more. And that's okay. But you're also going to see players come in. And you're going to see some really talented ones too. We've already seen them connected to BJ Mack out of Wofford. And he's a guy that, was actually had Ole Miss in his finals when he came out. He chose USF over Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up transferring from USF to Wofford. Now he averages 16 points a game, and we're interested again.
And he's a dude that can play and get you real minutes.
And this is day one stuff. Yep. We've already seen Ole Miss connected to 3 different players on day one of the Chris Beard era.
Day one.
That's awesome. It's something we haven't ever seen before, And when I say we, I mean Ole Miss. The Ole Miss basketball program, and I know it's a new era with that, but we haven't seen this level of excitement. I remember I was a little bit like kind of like different feeling about it, like whenever like they were like, oh, the hire is coming today. I was like, it should have happened like a week ago. But I was like, just like kind of like as the day went on, just man, I was like, I said, he's rolling, he's going. And it's like, it's something that's just wild to see. Like he came in immediately and got things going a little bit.
I mean, on the spot. Within hours.
I didn't think it was like that. I didn't think it was going to be like that. I thought he was going to, do really good things, but I didn't think it was going to happen on day one.
He said, buddy, we're getting this ball rolling.
The more I read up on Chris Beard, the coach, the more I like.
Yeah. You think?
He also kind of similar to Dusty May, who we also think was up for the Ole Miss job.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Bobby Knight. And Chris Beard used to kind of walk around talking, and he always used to talk about his 4-to-1 mentality and his 2x4. Going a little bit further into this, I just think it's really cool, so I just want to say it. The mental is to the physical as 4 is to 1. And pretty much saying that, 80% of what you're doing in basketball is going to be a mental mindset. 20% is actually carrying it out. And then the 2x4 is he would walk around with a literal 2x4. Which I love to think of the funny imagery of a coach walking around the 2x4, just like symbolism. And he just set it down, and he just said, walk over that. And then anybody just kind of looking around is like, oh yeah, it's easy. You just take a step on it and you walk through it, walk across it, and then you get off. And then he was like, and then he goes over there, and whenever they go into a new gym or something like that, he sets a 2x4. And he's like, now imagine up there in the ceiling, imagine the rafters across from 2 beams. And if I ask you to walk around it, or sorry, walk on top of it, walk across. And it becomes just like this imagery of you get scared, you get nervous because the potential that you might fall off, that there might be some downfall or something like that. But the reality is, as he says, it doesn't change. It's still a 2x4. You still just walk across it. The only thing that changes is our perception of the environment that we're in. Mm-hmm. He says if we can get past that, we can accomplish a lot.
Yep.
That's fun. That's cool. I like that a lot.
Well, you unlock a new level of psyche. You get kids to overcome fears that they would normally have and get them to approach the game in a different mindset. You see that shot, you take that shot. You're not scared of the ramifications of the shot. You're not scared of missing the free throw. You're not going to there with any kind of fear. You're not scared of going for that loose ball or taking risk that you normally wouldn't take. Because, again, it's all basketball moves. It's just how you perceive it. Do you get to perceive it as part of the game and you're doing what you normally do, or are you going to get caught up in the moment? And that's cool to have a coach that can get guys out of that, the greatness of the moment or where they're at, and can think about, I'm just playing ball. I'm just enjoying this, playing a game that I know very well, that I'm well coached in, and not overthinking and overcomplicating something that it's, like you said, the 2x4 is still the same 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
Still the same game.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's crazy because we're getting into March Madness. We got the brackets going. We've talked on air and then off air about our Final Four, our bracket, and stuff like that. But this is also something that, if you're an Ole Miss fan, enjoy watching the tournament. There's going to be a lot of good games, but also keep an eye on what's going on out there because it's going to happen quick. It's moving quick. A lot of players already entered, and Ole Miss's name is going to be brought up quite a bit.
Absolutely. And also watch the tournament and enjoy it and think about the years to come.
The potential. Think about the potential.
I mean, no, TJ, I'm not trying to set unrealistic I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to the Final Four year one. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I would not predict Ole Miss to go to the Final Four year one. But do I think if you had to put a gun in my head and say, is Ole Miss going to be in the tournament next year? My answer would be yes. Even if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I mean, but you're not.
That's a bold claim for not knowing what the roster is going to look like.
But then again, do I have a?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying 100%. The ability for him to come in, change a roster, get players in there that he likes. The better
way to put it is, would you be shocked if Ole Miss were in the tournament next year?
No, I wouldn't.
No. Would you be pleasantly surprised? That's the furthest extent of an extreme reaction. Would be pleasantly surprised, but shock, there will be no shock because what does Chris Beard do? He wins.
No, Ole Miss fans rejoice. This is something that you haven't seen. Purely on the court.
No.
Purely on the court. You got a top 5 basketball coach coaching your program in college.
He's not number 5.
I said top 5.
Yeah, and I said he's not number 5. That you get what I'm saying.
I don't, but that's okay. We'll just keep going.
I'm just saying, Beard's better than the number 5. Like he's irrelevant. Whatever. I'm trying to make a greater point. It just whatever.
What's better, you making a comment or me just shutting it down ASAP? Welcome to the Stick to Ole Miss podcast, everybody, where we just take each other's jokes and just shoot them down before we even get a chance.
I'm used to that. It happens all the time. Y'all, this is how TJ treats me in real life, by the way. So if anyone needs to call somebody for my own health and sanity, please do
it. Oh, man, this has been a fun one. This has been a fun episode.
I'm having fun.
I mean, I'm dead serious. Top 5 coach in all college basketball, coaching your program. Enjoy it. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be – the excitement should be there. The moment those season ticket, opportunity that you can go out and get the tickets, go for it because it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be fun to see who's on this roster next year, who's not, where they came from, how they got here, and just ultimately who the player they're going to end up being.
And if you have any questions about it, you're more than welcome to tweet at us, DM us, tell us your deepest, darkest, angriest thoughts. DM those to TJ. I like to hear the happy thoughts, but I'm excited.
I guess I'm just your filler for your counselor. No, absolutely. If you got any comments or anything like that, be sure to DM us anything. We love talking on Twitter, as well as on camera. Make sure you go ahead while you're here. Give us a like, give us a subscribe to the channel, The Rebel Walk. Be interested, be ready for when any of the new episodes come out. We're going to try and do better. We did a really good job of covering this coaching search. We're going to do even better with the recruiting cycle coming now. Caleb, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you real quick.
Find me on Twitter. You see it right here, however I do it, at Caleb Salers ST. Find me online at supertalk.fm, in Supertalk News on Facebook and Twitter. And that's where I am, supertalk.fm. You'll see my work on a daily basis, covering everything in the capital of Mississippi and all throughout the Magnolia State.
As for me, you already know it's all Rebel Walk all the time. If you're looking for a spot to get 100% Ole Miss sports and athletics coverage, the Rebel Walk is it. Whether you want baseball coverage going on, we got some great guys doing shows and articles over there. They're out there at Swayze all the time, covering it all, bringing it to you. If you want football talk, we got plenty of people over there covering recruiting, game aspects, as well as everything, breaking down the X and O's. If you want basketball, you got me, you got other Trevor. We're doing a lot. Caleb, you got